Hi. Oh, whoa. So now we have Dennis from Test Dev Lab ready to present. Do you want the mic?
No.
Okay.
Hey guys. Woo. The mic is working great. Hope you're not tired. If someone's tired, just let's stretch. Let's stand up, everybody. Just stand up. Like hands in the air. Maybe throw your hips around a little bit. Don't be shy. Yeah, I think that's enough. I don't know. Shoulders, left, right, something like that. Okay, so the talk I'm giving today is API smoke test in 5 minutes. A bit of a controversial topic, but before we start, I'd like to welcome my friend and colleague to the stage. Give a round of applause for Kristaps. He's holding the ball. So please raise a hand if you don't know what this ball represents. Whoa, there's a lot of you guys. So this ball is actually a vote machine, let's say. We have a live demo on stage prepared for you guys. So if you think I can manage to automate API smoke test in 5 minutes, just sign a green card, show it into the bowl, and you'll have the chance of winning this thing if I succeed. If you don't think I'm gonna succeed, just sign the red one, throw it in the bowl as well. And again, the chance to win that thing. It's a JBL speaker, Paul's the third version. Yeah, while Kristaps is giving you out the cards, let's just go ahead and continue with the presentation. So I'm gonna give you a little story behind the whole concept. So this is me. I'm not as yellow as SpongeBob here, but my name's Dennis. My last name is Luočmelis, which is Latvian. It's a country in Eastern Europe. I love QA. I love testing. I come from Test Dev Lab, which is a QA-centric company in Latvia, and we love doing all kinds of quality assurance stuff. So I have lots of experience in QA field. I've done development, especially for QA tools. Enough about me. The star of the show, the developers. So shout if you're representing this group. Just make some noise. The developers. Come on, guys. I think you can do better. So one more time. The developers. Much, much better. So these are the heroes of my story. Why? Those guys went out on a limb and they decided to make their own, let's say, business. And the center of their business is this. It's a store API. So they have a family business and they decided to take it online, which is a great idea. And they wanted to distribute their products to other customers, so they're doing wholesale. And they allow through the store API to create, read, update, and delete orders based on data resources. So who knows what this functionality, what kind of API this functionality represents? Anyone? Just a quick guess, or maybe an educated guess? Exactly, I heard REST. This is indeed REST API. This is the main functionality for any REST API to create, read, update, delete resources. So it's CRUD functionality. They started small and they decided, okay, we have a store, we need proof of concept. Let's start with our fruit section. Okay, bananas, apples, oranges, and yeah, we have crates to distribute them. So they built an API, REST API, with 5 resources, altogether 25 endpoints or routes. And actually, they did great. So they had 1 customer, the second one, third, and the customer base grew rapidly. So the user base was huge. And the first question is, how long can this API that our star developers built take this? Until this happens. You don't want that, right? So they asked, like, what the hell? What do we want? We want testing. When do we want it? It's now. And we can't wait. Let's discuss a very important point in testing. If you're thinking of testing APIs, what are the critical API quality characteristics? If you want to look at all quality characteristics, there's ISO standard 25010. Check it out, Google it, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you about the most critical ones. Functionality. Of course, you have to see if it's suitable against your CRUD. If you can create, read, update, delete banana orders, oranges orders, and so on. The second critical API quality characteristic is reliability. What does it mean? It means that it has to withstand long periods of times dealing with these customer requests, client requests, and so on. So when you have an API, you know that there are going to be SDKs built into some client apps and so on. Maybe, in some cases, there even be IoT devices that will connect. So you have to be reliable. And, of course, your API has to be reliable. There's, of course, this, which is performance. If you're serving 1 customer, great. If your orders become more and more like over the rooftop, like tens of thousands of requests per second, you have to have this tested. And of course, security. If you build your API first for open like customers, you still have to think about security. If your API is secure enough, you're building admin APIs, you have to secure those as well. This is the definition of a smoke test, not just only functionality. A lot of developers are mistaking smoke tests just, okay, functional stuff, let's test CRUD, and that's enough. Actually, we have to think of all of these. Nowadays, if we need to test APIs, we have to do it automatically, right? We have to make sure each time we enable any changes, build, do it regularly. It's automation, right? I'm not talking nonsense here. So what do you think, guys? What this is? So automation is mostly what? Just shout out, anyone. What do you think this guy's is? It's a Mac. What else? Anyone? Yeah, it's code. I have a good hearing. Okay, so it's code, exactly. Automation is code. You have to do a lot of coding, scripting, whatnot. And you're right, because you have to do data object management. You have to do data modification. You have to think about, okay, how we're going to parse the data that comes from the API, how to validate this. If we're writing code, we have to actually be good developers, right? If we have a QA, we have to have skilled QAs. There's a lot of stuff that we have to think about, okay, how to build this test automation. So this is coding. We're actually doing a lot of coding. And we want to do tests. Those developers are waiting for something terrible probably to happen if they wait long enough, right? So they have to have tests as far as I understand just now. let's say, these short-term time. So this whole thing that I'm talking about, test automation, it takes what? It takes hours. It takes probably days if it's a big API. It even can take weeks if we take into equation that we need performance tests. That's probably another tool or something like that. All right, how about in minutes? That's actually that was our challenge as a company. Let's make API testing with all these critical functionalities in mind in minutes. Heck, let's do it in 5. Enough talk. We have to do some stuff. So, again, let me just quickly tell you that the only thing that I've set up is a Git repo for the demo. I have a Jenkins locally on my machine. I have 2 jobs just created that will get everything that lies in the repo. And I have a Visual Studio Code app in which I have a Swagger JSON. That's documentation for the API, for the store API that those developers have built. And there's a git ignore file so we don't push everything to our repo. So this is all I've got, and I have to do everything to make these tests happen for those guys. And they rely on me. They know we have just 5 minutes. Enough talk, let's start. Okay, it's ticking. It's like a bomb. Hopefully it's not going to go off. All right, so first we have to prepare our project and build a user real quickly. Project, let's call it Signal 2018. Tasks for a password. Let's retype it again. So now it's going to build our test structure with the things that we need always, the test environment. So for the environment, this is a log file for my API. Let's clean it up. And the port number that my API is running is 6969. Tacky. All right, we've done that. We're waiting for another download. It takes some time, and the time's running up. All right, so, whoa, it's there. That's great. We have next command to execute. Let's import our Open API, which is Swagger 2.0 file. Let's take a look what we have in our tool. So it says, okay, we have flags to create test cases based on steps. That's good. Create a test set and create sim load, whatever that means, guys. All right, so CTS. Ooh, something happened. We see that we have set execution. Let's add a description. It's store API smoke test set. Cool. We have 4 cases that actually cover all of our fruit needs. Let's delete the feature 1 placeholder. Cool. We have cases, we have load scenarios, and we have steps that we can, build a lot of other scenarios if we want, but we just need smoke test. All right, we have our tests. Let's add them to our Git repo. Let's commit. Let's store API smoke test. Cool. And let's push it. Okay. We should have our tests. We still have to configure our test jobs. So let's go to functional first. Let's go ahead. And the only thing I have to do is execute the shell. Appimation, run, set. Oh, we need the set name, right? So let's take the set name. It's CRUD set. It's local environment, right? Let's make sure. We don't want to screw up. So this is the local environment file, and we're going to be using this base URL that will point to my API locally. All right, so it's local. We're not going to copy anything. Okay. See, that's just enough for our functional test. Let's configure the load test execution. Mation, run, load. And if we check the tests section, we see that the load section names are all CRUD. So we're going to use regular expression saying, OK, we want to run every load test scenario. So it's CRUD. The environment is local. Oh my God, 20 seconds left. And save. That's it, guys. We're done. Sorry for those who voted against me. I'm still 10 seconds on the clock. I'm going to just take it and run it until the end so you know the sound of failure. 3, 2, 1. Where's the sound? Okay, I did it live here. So, okay. The time ran out. We had 5 minutes. We created tests. We even configured the job. Let's test it out and see if it works or not, okay? So just build now. Let's look at live logs. Exciting. That's it for functional. So thank you, guys. Thank you. That's not yet it. As we see, this is the log for our live API. We're feeding it a lot of fruit right now. Bananas, oranges, and stuff like that. So it's, oh, it was apples. Now we're having some other fruit. So we had our functional tests done, and now we are running it in load testing scenarios. So if we want to check the report, let's see what we have there. So first, we have the console version, and in the console version, we see each test case details right there. It's even colorized. And this is the HTML report that you can share with anyone. So if it fails, you send it probably to developers, and they're going to debug. How are they debugging? So first, you see all the variables used. You see, we also import the variables from the environment. So you can use the environment variables with these. These are the case variables that are generated. When we built the tests from the documentation, we just used built-in functions to generate the inputs. And there's our list variables as well. If we are running in a loop scenarios, we can build lists of data and feed it. As you can see, we are testing CRUD. It's simple: create, read, update, delete. And what we did there is just get the patterns of APIs, of REST APIs. We know how they work, so we just automate that. And we see the assertions of the required values. We see what data went out. We see what data went in. And that's for all of our resources right there. And even with boxes, it's a more complex scenario because we first create boxes, then we create a resource that belongs to the boxes, like apples, and we create those apples inside the boxes. So that's just an example of multiple level REST functionality. All right, that's for functional. It's easy. It goes through real quick. What about the load tests, right? We need to check our load performance scenarios as well. If we go in, again, console output, we see that we are running the test for boxes, CRUD. Then it's for everything else. And actually, we have the HTML report as well. We have the crazy graph. We can zoom in. We can pick a point. And if it would fail, we would see it red. And we can actually pinpoint to exact nanosecond in which it happened and correlate with the logs on the server. Meaning, like, I would go here and see what happened on my API. And you have some bling bling stuff. This is the full report for functional, for performance. If we go back to the tests for you guys just to look how they're created and how easily extensible they are. So if we go to the steps section and see how do we create an apple. And this is it, there's no code. There's totally no code, we just have definitions. It's called declarative style testing. I don't know if you heard of it, but yeah, that's the thing. It's easily extensible. If anything in the code changes, we generate our Swagger API or Open API 3.0 and just import it again, just without generating the test cases and updating just the steps. And the cases look almost the same. So if we open up the oranges, we see that, okay, we have the steps. It's easy. It's in sequence. And we see what kind of inputs we're using. So it's human readable. It's YAML. You can give it to your test manager, and he'll understand what's happening there. Let's go back to the presentation. And let's review real quick what we did there. So it's 5 stages in 5 minutes, main stages. First, we use the tool to set up local repository, okay? Nothing hard to do there. So then we generated tests from documentation. Again, how we did it, we know how REST APIs work. We just have the pattern and generate the steps. We know the request data that's in documentation. We know what required data we're sending, what are we expecting. So we know what kind of assertions do we need, and we know what data to grab. Test cases are built based on the patterns and test sets. So we configured, let's go back. Okay, so we configured the test environment. Real easy, we added the port number, but actually we could use whatever we like. We could add tokens, keys, and stuff like that if we need for current environment local or staging or even production. We pushed the tests to remote repository, to GitHub. And we just configured smoke test CI jobs. It was just command per job. And again, for you guys to understand the whole thing together. So the tool, right? You can find the tools that do similar things, but let's review what ours did. We used the doc to just identify resources, and parse required data. The one tool that just recognizes the patterns and builds test cases. And keeping it simple, let's not code all the time. It's testing. Let's invest our time in the API. And let's not spend time coding and just maintaining the code for our tests. And let's reuse our functional scenarios to build non-functional scenarios, basically performance tests, load tests, stress tests. Have the same tool do the execution. So use the documentation as your test basis. Generate test cases based on patterns. Have a declarative way of extending tests, and have functional tests be reusable for your load test execution. Thank you, guys, and this attempt was successful thanks to our tool, Appmation, API Testing Redefined. Thank you.
There it goes. Are there any questions for Dennis?
They're waiting for the bowl.
They're waiting for the ball. All right.
All right. So, as you saw, the attempt was successful. Sorry for the haters. I'll try to shake it up as much as I can. All right. The lucky man or woman. Not so lucky. All right, next one, hopefully green. Oh yeah, it's green. All right, so give a hand of applause to Eric Chang. Come up to the stage, come up. Thanks for trusting in me, bro.
That's good.
Here you go.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it from my side.